The HBCU Sports Podcast coming to you in 3, 2. Yeah. We are back once again live in this thing. This is this episode 9?
That would be correct. Episode 9.
Episode 9 of the HBCU Sports Podcast. I'm Ken Rashad. He's Jeff Duplessis.
That's me.
And man, I don't recall ever being this excited about an upcoming game like I am about the upcoming Celebration Bowl at the Georgia Dome this Saturday in Atlanta. I will be there. I am flying out Friday morning, and for those of you who may not have the opportunity to witness this game in person, by all means, please take a moment to support this. You can literally support this game by flipping your channels to ABC and watch it on national TV. The two best HBCU football programs in the country will be featured this Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central. Check your local listings, but man, it is, oh my goodness. But before we get,
I share your enthusiasm for this game, Ken.
Words cannot express how excited I am about this, and we'll get into that.
And we kick off the bowl season. It is the first bowl game of the 2016 bowl season. Tell
me about it. But and man, there's so much we got to cover with respect to this game. But before we do that, we've got some things that some regular standard formalities that we've got to go over. If you are listening to this podcast, we ask that you please bless us by going to Spreaker.com. We are on that platform, Spreaker.com. Go to Spreaker.com, do a search on HBCU Sports. You will be taken to our official page on the platform at Spreaker. Do us a favor and follow us. We only got 5 followers on there. We got plenty of downloads. The downloads are increasing each week, but we've only got 5 followers. Somebody follow us, damn it. And we'll call you out. You follow us, and we'll look. The last group that followed us was Talladega College, and we gave them kudos for that. So look, man, take a moment to follow us on Spreaker, and while you do that, go to hbcusports.com/podcast. This is a donation-based podcast, and so we aren't in a position yet to where we can attract sponsors, but we're growing, we're a work in progress, and we ask that you take a moment to bless us with your giving, with your donations, and so that we can feel inspired to continue to do this on a week-to-week basis. We are also on the social networks. You can follow HBCU Sports on Twitter at Real HBCU Sports. You can follow yours truly on Twitter at Kenn, Kenn Rashad. And Jeff, they can follow you on Twitter at
JMO700. That's JAYMO 700. And guess what?
What's
I
that?
got 3 new followers.
Yeah, man.
From HBCU Sports this week. I was like giddy. I was like, oh man,
it's a damn shame. We've been knowing each other all these. We've been knowing each other all these years. And I just look, I'm like, man, HBCU Sports doesn't follow Jeff. What's up with that? So anyway, yeah. So you
but I got 2 other ones came aboard. So
yeah, I'll talk.
They've been listening. They're listening and they're hearing my plea. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about that offline because I know who they are. But anyway,
I know you know who they are.
You
probably your 2 sons.
No, they are not my 2 sons.
Masquerading as fans.
No, man. My kids don't even want to follow me, But anyway, so no, but yeah, you can also follow HBCU Sports on all the other social networking platforms. We are on Facebook, and we are obviously, as you've noticed, we're on Twitter as well. And so, so yeah, take a moment to follow us, and we would greatly appreciate it. And then with that all said, Jeff. With that all said, baby.
Drum roll. You got a drum roll?
I got music. The Celebration Bowl this Saturday in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome. Grambling State the SWAC champion, versus MEAC champion North Carolina Central. And look,
it's a battle of the big cats and the big birds.
A battle of the big cats and the angry birds.
Birds.
And I don't know if that's something that was if that's been used all season long, but I got to give kudos to Stephen Gaither, who used that in one of his pieces earlier this week with respect to something that was said about the Central being a 15-point underdog, and we'll get into that a little later too. But he used the term angry birds, and I said, damn it, I wish I thought about that. So props to Stephen Gaither for coming up. I like that, the angry birds. And if what we've been hearing about this North Carolina Central team and their attitude in approaching this game, as has been the case in games previously this year, this is going to be box office stuff, man. This is going to be box office stuff. So, we might as well get into it. The hot topic of the week, as it relates to this game, is the fact that Las Vegas odds makers have set North Carolina as a 15-point underdog going into this game Saturday against Grambling State. And Jeff, I don't know that when you put in consideration this very North Carolina Central team with their body of work,
yeah,
I think they are justified in being just a tad bit peed off once again about being an underdog in key games, such as, especially this one of all games, the Celebration Bowl, which the winner will basically be crowned the mythical HBCU Black College Football Champion. So, well,
Ken, I'm going to defend the Las Vegas bookmaker. I can understand. I can reason why this bookmaker got the 15-point. You look at the games. You look at all season long, and they're looking at the big picture. They're looking at all games. The 11 games that North Carolina Central played, the 11 games that Grambling played. Grambling pretty much dominated most of their games, with the exception of the SWAC championship game. They pretty much beat you down. Even though they got behind on several games, they came back like a storm and won by 3 and 4 touchdowns, and had a Pac-12 Arizona team down at halftime before unfortunately losing that game. On the other hand, Central has played a lot of close games, a lot of 5, 6, 3-point games, one touchdown games. So that's what they're looking at. They really don't know North Carolina Central, or they really don't know Grambling, but they're looking at the big picture, looking at scores, they're looking at trends, and that's kind of how they set that. So seeing them put Grambling 15 points is not very surprising, but I could understand why it would upset the Eagle fans and the community, because that's a sign of a little bit of sign of disrespect,
Okay. Well, you said you were going to take a moment and defend the Vegas odds makers. I'm going to take a moment and defend North Carolina Central in that I understand why they are pissed off. I mean, let's face it, they're pissed off. You pissed them off.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is a team. This isn't some fly-by-night program. I mean, this is, you look at North Carolina Central and their body of work. This isn't just something that they've done this year. They have been consistent over the last 3 seasons. Back in 2014, they were co-MEAC champions. That was a 5-way tie. Last year, they were co-MEAC champions in a 3-way tie with North Carolina A&T and Bethune-Cookman. And this year, they are the outright champions. And in 2 of those years, and let's face it, the media, we've kind of played a role in this. The last couple of years, it's been all about Tariq Cohen, and the Fighting Broadways at A&T, and all week in and week out. It's been about Tariq Cohen and Tariq Cohen this and Tariq Cohen this and the great Rod Broadway doing this and the great Broadway doing that. And Central just said, you know what, the hell with this. And not just this year, they beat them last year. And then this year, which in many instances was their MEAC championship game, even though they don't necessarily, they don't have one. I mean, they came in and just demolished North Carolina A&T, 42-21. It wasn't close. And so they are justified in being upset in that, here we are, a program that's done what we've done. We've only lost, our only 2 losses come to FBS teams. We are ranked among the top 20, 25 in the nation consistently, or a good portion throughout the course of the season. And then here we are in the Celebration Bowl, which has been the goal since the day they started camp. And you have the audacity to say that we are going to be a 15-point underdog to Grambling. Now, granted, it is Grambling, and granted, their body of work is just as impressive. But we deserve a little bit more respect than that. So I get it. And, I can certainly understand why they are just a tad bit peed off by the odds makers.
Well, this is where they have to go out and earn respect. And, they go out there and they play well, they get a win, and they come back next year, and I guarantee they won't be a 15-point underdog to whoever they play if it happens again. So, like I said, I think it's the body of work they're looking at. They are enamored with the Grambling name. I mean, Grambling football is royalty among HBCU programs. So, all that plays a role. These odds makers they're not as invested in the HBCU as they are in the SEC and Big 12 and Big 10 programs. So they take what they have, what they know, and they try to make a rationale for it. And I guess they determined 15 points sounds about right.
North Carolina Central had their weekly press conference on Tuesday, and Jerry Mack, head coach, was asked about the odds makers listing A&T, listing Central as a 15-point underdog, and these were his comments.
Malcolm talked about being a 15-point underdog and how that kind of rubbed them the wrong way, and they got a chip on their shoulder. Now, how are you and your fellow coaching staff, how did you guys react when you first heard that news, and how are you using that as a motivating tool this week?
I think it's been the same all year. We came into this season as underdogs. Nobody gave us a chance. We picked third in the conference. We didn't receive any television games, so we're just kind of used to it. Any kind of momentum, any kind of things like that our team can use is always good for our guys. As a coaching staff, we just put together great schemes and try to put our guys in position to be successful. The rest of it, the guys have done a great job of going out there and executing and taking care of what they need to take care of. So we can't be concerned about a Vegas line or what someone else says about us. We just want to make sure that we put our guys in position to be successful and we have them focused on game day.
Jeff? Sounds like coach speak to me. What do you think?
It is coach speak. Of course, I'm sure they have that all over their bulletin board. I'm sure he's using that to motivate his players every time they step on the practice field. They're not respecting you guys. They don't think much about you. They think you're a big underdog. But you know what's interesting, Ken? They say home field advantages gives you 3 points. So at Grambling, if the game was in Grambling would be favored by 18. In Durham, they'll be favored by 12. So that's still 12 points to be a underdog on your own field. That probably even sticks it to them a little bit more when you think about it.
So those were the words from Jerry Mack. And obviously, and I say this respectfully, what is he supposed to say? He can't be concerned about what the odds makers are thinking. Can't be concerned about what anybody else is saying. All he has to do is just focus right now on making sure that his team is prepared for the game on Saturday. So we heard from the coach. Let's hear from one of the players. This is Malcolm Bell's thought about being listed as a 15-point underdog during the press conference on Tuesday.
We're excited to have the opportunity to go and play in the Georgia Dome for a big game like this. However, we're a 15-point underdog right now, and we just feel disrespected as one of the top FCS teams in the nation. How could you be a 15-point underdog? But we're just going to go out there and have a chip on our shoulder, just like every other game.
So you all talked about that as a small groups. I'm sure y'all talked about that, right?
Yeah, a motivational tool.
How quickly did that spread across the team? I saw it Sunday or Monday. How quickly did that
really
the board spread across the team?
It was really fast. As soon as it came out, the coaches were talking about it. They sent text messages out, and that's just something that we've always done as a program. Just get the motivation flowing, and just to let you know that you're still an underdog, no matter what you do good. You're still an underdog. So we take that and run with it.
That seems to have been a thing throughout the year. I mean, you got to pick third to finish in the MEAC. Probably underdogs at Bethune, definitely underdogs against A&T, but you still have come out on top. You had a chip all year. That kind of been the role and the motto and the mentality for the guys all year.
Yeah, that's just been our mentality for the past 3 years now. Is no one wants to respect us, and we just go out there and prove them wrong every time.
They just go out there and prove them wrong every time, Jeff.
Hey, Ken, the comedy team Key and Peele? They got a skit where one of them plays the interpreter for Barack Obama. He kind of says what he's really, because Barack is so cool and calm, or I think it's Key has he talks like what he's really thinking. Well, I think Malcolm Bell was saying what Coach Mack was thinking. He said the truth. Coach Mack was giving us a coach speak. So it's no doubt those guys feel upset, a little disrespected, that they're underdogs, and they want to come out and they want to play and show, have a good showing and prove people wrong. That's really what they want to do, and they want to get a victory.
Yeah, as if Central didn't have enough motivation coming into this game, just simply earning the right to play in the Celebration Bowl for a national championship, then to be told that, well, you're going to be coming in as a 15-point underdog. I mean, this has been, I guess for them, this has been kind of, as he says, they're underdogs. They just view themselves as underdogs, and that ultimately just comes down to just winning games. That they're not going to change anyone's minds. They're not going to give anyone else any different viewpoint of them. I mean, it is what it is at this point. And there's some other interesting tidbits about this game that we'll talk about with respect to the two teams, and how even Coach Mack talked about this in terms of Grambling being this legendary, iconic football legend, whatever superlative you want to give it. And then you got North Carolina Central, who, you laugh, for the most part, no one's ever heard of North Carolina Central. And, they, in many instances, have been somewhat of the little brother to North Carolina A&T right down the road, whom they can't stand, by the way. But they've been able to kind of do their, look, overall, the athletic program, whether it be in football or even basketball, and then obviously HBCU Digest named them HBCU of the year. So obviously this game is huge. And so I asked you this question. I'm going to kind of shift focus a little bit. I asked you this question earlier, and that I think it's safe to say that for the Central folks, for the Angry Birds, that this is likely the biggest game in the history of North Carolina Central's football program. And I
think it's a fair assessment.
Okay, that's okay, right. And anyone who's listening to this from Central, if you can think of a bigger game, by all means, let us know. We don't say this to be disrespectful, but this is a pretty big contest for both programs. So,
and they have a great history themselves, but they've only been on the FCS level for a few years now.
Right.
So this is by far their biggest game on the FCS level, I would think. Although they made a claim to be the Black national champion a few years ago. So I'm sure they had some big victories that season that resonates with their fan base and their alumni. But I think you're not off base by saying this is their biggest game in program history.
Okay, so with that said, we've settled the fact that this is likely Central's biggest game. But now here's the question that I asked you earlier, and I'm going to ask this out to everyone else, and I'm sure you'll feel free to let me know once this is over with. Is this the biggest game in Grambling State football history? Think about it now. Now, look,
this is the biggest game in Grambling football history post
Eddie Robinson. Yeah, I get that, but I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the totality of the program. And I say that because there've been obviously with the legacy and the history of this program being what it is, there've been obviously a lot of big games. There've been a lot of big games in the Bayou Classic. There've been, I guess, big games with the SWAC championship game. There've probably been big games associated with the matchups in the past. Maybe the Grambling and FAMU games, or the Grambling and the Tennessee State games, or even the Grambling and the Jackson State games. But were those games big, or did those games have the anticipation that this game has? Because it's easy for us, hindsight is 2020, and I can think of some matchups going back to our days in school that were great, that were huge, that were tremendous. Mm-hmm. But I can't say that those games had the same level of excitement before compared to this one. I'm reminded of that. I'm reminded of the game that Grambling played when Eddie Robinson played with Steve McNair his senior year at Grambling. I believe the final score of that game was something like 59-56 or whatever the case was. I mean, the stadium was packed. I'm reminded of those legendary games against Tennessee State. I'm reminded of a game that Grambling played against Jackson State when it was Robinson versus what's his name, Gordon, Coach Gordon, when he was there. And so they're legendary matchups, and I remember those games, being highly anticipated before the game even started.
Do you recall the playoff matchup with Stephen F. Austin?
I was there, and that game
56, I think, with the final.
Right,
and
so
Grambling had 3 touchdowns called back.
Yeah, and I remember one of them by Fred Jones to this day, and me and some of the Grambling faithful who were there to this day will say that game was that was a catch. That touchdown was a catch. And that might have changed the entire complex of the playoffs, because that Stephen F. Austin team that year, I believe, went on to the national championship, and I believe they lost. That's when they were having the finals over in Chattanooga, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe they were national runner-up that year. So, obviously there have been big games in the past, and I'm not disputing that. But where does it, if this game isn't number one, is it at least in the top 5? Because I'm telling you,
I would think so. I think Grambling has claimed a stake to being the Black College National Champion. I want to say like a dozen times or more. So they've had big games for years, not
but have there many
times. Big players.
But this game will determine the Black College National Championship.
Right.
That's the thing.
I understand. So that adds some weight to it, no doubt.
I just thought about that, and I understand. Yeah, it's Grambling. Say what you will about them and so forth, but I don't know. It's just something about it that I'm like, okay, this is a big game for Central, but is it just as big for Grambling as well? If not, is it one of the bigger games that Grambling has been? So I'm thinking it's up there. Without question, it is up there, and I am inclined to agree with you that, without question, probably the biggest game post Eddie Robinson, without question. I think that's a fair assessment.
I think that's a fair statement.
Very, very, very.
It's fair. A big game. It's a big game.
Mm-hmm.
Any way you look at it, it's a big game. If it's the biggest, I don't know, but it's a big game.
Okay.
So you want to be the champion. You want to win the championship, and that's what this is about.
Another interesting dynamic about this game is the fact that it was revealed, and wasn't aware of this in the press conference during North Carolina Central's press conference on Tuesday, that this will be Central's, and for many of those players, it will be their first time playing in a domed stadium. And I thought about it, and I said, really? And I'm thinking, and I hate to compare the squads, but then I think about Grambling. This will be the 3rd straight game that they've played in the Dome Stadium.
Sure has.
Right. Bayou Classic was in the Superdome. The SWAC Championship game was in NRG Stadium. And then, of course, this game is going to be in the Georgia Dome. 3 games. And so I started doing some more digging, in which, and we'll listen to the comments made by Fobbs, and this all ties in. As a matter of fact, let's stop using. Let's listen to the comments Coach Fobbs made about preparation for this game.
at the end of the practice, you're telling the guys, this is a big game, you're going to be on ABC, everyone's going to be seeing you, they want to come out and they want to play well against y'all. What is the message in terms of that, where you're on a stage that big and you want them to kind of, I guess, enjoy the experience, but also realize how many people are going to be watching and to go out and put your best foot forward?
Well, I wanted them to paint a picture of what will happen on Saturday. I'm always trying to put them in the mindset of what's going to happen, on that particular weekend. So I always want them to practice with the mindset of being in the moment at that particular time. So when we're on the practice field, I want them to visualize you're already in the dome. You already have 50,000 people in the stands. The color of the opponent. So even though we're going against the scout team, you're visualizing them wearing a certain color. What is the jersey number of the kid that I'm going against? All those things, I want them to go ahead and be in that moment. So now when it happens on Saturday, there's nothing new for us. We've already been there. We've already crossed that hurdle. So it's easier to react and play the right way when you've already been there mentally. When you haven't been there mentally, it's slow. It's too hard to recognize it at that particular time. So we try to fill up our bank and play the game Monday through Friday. And the reason why we want to do that is because on Saturday, it's just a dress rehearsal. You've already done it. And that's the way we go about handling our business.
So he sets the stage for...
Ken, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did you get Coach Fobbs out?
Did you get him out?
Yeah, out there well.
This sound like you was in an echo tunnel or well or something.
Yeah, tunnel or something.
Look, that's one thing. Hey, score one for North Carolina Central in terms of audio quality and production quality, because I'm not going to go into too much detail as to where that sound clip came from, but I can tell you now. Wow. Score one for the Central, for the Angry Birds, by the way. Again, thank you, Stephen Gaither, for that term. If it was you that came up with that, I like that, the Angry Birds. But anyway, so he paints the picture of how he is going to prepare his team for this contest, playing in the venue before 50,000 people, even to the extent of imagining, the school colors, maroon and gray, and granted, that's not uncommon for a coach, but for him to literally come out that way and make
it's
that
a dress rehearsal. It's a dress rehearsal all week long. That's what he wants his kids to be prepared and to understand what they're doing. And when and he said it, when they go out there on Saturday, it's just routine. It's just like putting their one foot in front of the other.
Okay, so right. So again, in terms of the preparation, and I want to go back to Malcolm Bell, who, but just by the way, and I want to make this clear, you talk about a young man who is poised in front of the mic. And you can tell he's used to speaking before members of the media. It just is, it was great to see him, how he was able to adjust the questions as they came to him. But here is his comments about playing for the first time in a dome stadium.
Have you guys ever played in a stadium like the Georgia Dome before? Anything close to it? Is that something that you guys are doing to prepare for that experience?
Really not. I mean, we're going to practice there when we get there, but none of us have played in the Dome before. I've been in one NFL venue. That was the Colts Stadium, but that was about it, and I didn't play. So,
on that same vein, have you had a chance to kind of visualize, go through the game and how it all unfold for you? Maybe not the game itself, but in the beginning part, to kind of walk on out there. Have you kind of visualized that part, in your mind?
A little bit. It's kind of hard to, visualize such a big stage. I've never played on a big stage like that before. So it's something new, but I'm not scared of it. I'm ready for it. And, hopefully I give a good showing in the venue.
So now I got to ask you, is that something that could potentially create a problem? You think about the preparation in that for a moment. Mm-hmm. Is that something that can be considered advantage Grambling, or are we making more than we should?
I'm gonna tell you one thing that's always an adjustment. is the lights. The lights fielding punts and kickoffs, long passes. That's a big adjustment. And we'll talk about this a little later, but one of the best punt returners in the nation is plays for North Carolina Central. And that could be problematic if he has the good thing about it, and this is bad for the HBCUs in general. The punters aren't putting up booming skyrocket punts. They're usually pretty flat and pretty line drive for the most part. But if someone gets a hold of one and puts it up high, it could be problematic for him trying to field that with those lights.
Well, I found that to be fascinating when you look at, again, the path that both of these teams have taken in terms of how they managed to get, to this point in preparing to play in Saturday's game. And, I had to look at this. When you look at North Carolina Central, and Fobbs said himself about the possibility of there being a crowd of roughly, 50,000 people. And again, I don't want to make more. I don't want to make this to be more than it's worth, but it's still something worth mentioning, in that this will, if that holds true, and we happen to witness a crowd somewhere, 45, 50,000 people, that will by far be the largest crowd that Central has played in front of all year.
Yeah.
Up to this point, the largest crowd that they've played in front of was the first game of the year against Duke, at Duke, and the attendance of that game was 35,000. Oh my goodness, what happened? Okay. 35,049 people.
Right.
Second largest crowd was at Western Michigan before 23,727 people. The third largest, Savannah State, and I'm assuming this is homecoming. This was in Durham, 12,966. Those are the three largest crowds that Central has played in front of. I'm sorry, and no, that's not true. The A&T game, 15,715, and then 12,966. So I mean, again, I don't want to make more out of this than we should, but again, that is something that you have to consider.
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about the crowd size playing. I'm more worried about the conditions in the dome and the lights and the turf and things like that. That it's not like it's going to be 50,000 is a big crowd, no doubt, but it's not going to be so loud that they can't hear themselves think. Make check downs at the line of scrimmage and things like that, because it's going to be pretty much a 50-50 crowd. You can pretty much guesstimate that's going to be the case. So it's not like it's 75,000 people in there and they're all for Grambling,
Right.
So that should alleviate any communication issues. But the conditions of the lights, the field turf, things like that, those will be adjustments, and I think that's the things that they should be most concerned about, and not necessarily the crowd,
Meanwhile, if you look at Grambling and the three largest crowds that they've played in front of, I mean, it's night and day. When you look at the path that both of these teams have taken, you look at the crowds that the largest crowd Grambling's played in front of this year was at the Bayou Classic against Southern, 67,845. The second largest crowd was 53,182. That was against Prairie View A&M at the State Fair Classic earlier this year. And then the third largest crowd they played was against Arizona, 45,686, and that's an FBS opponent. And Grambling's two largest games were in front of crowds that were against FCS opponents. So again, like I said, may not be a big deal to some. I thought it was rather fascinating in that, Malcolm Bell talks about how this is literally going to be his first time playing in a dome stadium. And I guess because, again, we look at the venues that the teams in the SWAC play in, and it's not uncommon, I guess, not even nowadays, just not so much FCS teams, and maybe the SWAC is in a very unique position, because when you think about it, do you really see any other FCS teams playing in those type of venues? So it's something it's something that you kind of have to think about, but I find it fascinating nonetheless.
Yeah, it's interesting. The SWAC has some of the larger facilities among the FCS schools around the country. Especially when you compare it to the MEAC facilities, that several of them are under 10,000 total seats. So that is a little different. But again, like I said, the crowd, I'm not too worried about the crowd for the Eagles. It's the other conditions in playing inside a dome is I would think would be their biggest concern.
Right. Let's take a moment just to some other news that took place. Granted, it's been all about the Celebration Bowl, but there have been a couple of other bits and pieces of news that we think should be addressed. The 4 finalists for the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year Awards, and I guess this isn't surprising. Rod Broadway, Broderick Fobbs, Jerry Mack. Those 3 finalists, right? 3.
Yes.
Rod Broadway, Broderick Fobbs, and Jerry Mack, finalists.
And that'll be announced tomorrow, I believe.
Right. That'll be December 15th. Yeah. And I don't think those names are a surprise. Who would you give it to, though?
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's a tough. You can give it to any 3 of them, but I don't know when the voting was done. Was it done before the MEAC championship game? Was it done before the Bayou Classic?
Yeah, right.
It depends on that. But you couldn't go wrong to give it to any of them. But you just based on this game, who do you give it to, Mack or Fobbs? I mean,
right.
I would lean to Mack because I'm not sure this was necessarily expected of them this season.
Well, I think it's safe to say that you got to either give it to you give it to Fobbs or to Mack. I mean, I guess if head to head counts for anything, Mack has had Broadway's number the last couple of years, and I know there may be a rather simplistic way of looking at it, but I'm just saying if you got to use a process of elimination, that's one way to look at it. Morgan State named Fred Furrier the permanent coach. They've removed the interim tag.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what expectations the folks in Baltimore have with Morgan State football. And this simply isn't meant to be what were they? 3-8 last year?
Oh, well, I have to.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
The 3-8. It was a 3-8 football team last year, and I guess I'm wondering, what went into that decision, and can you hold him accountable for the wins and losses? Does it have anything to do with the resources that the program is, that the alumni and the schools put into football there at the school? I don't know. So.
You would think Morgan State could have a good program. I mean, they're right there in the heart of Baltimore. There's a lot of talent in the city of Baltimore and Washington, D.C. and the suburbs around there.
Mm-hmm.
You would think they would have an opportunity to have a good program and get kids in there who probably can't get into Howard, but can get into Morgan State.
Right.
Right. They can go the JUCO route, and they can do things like that Howard can't do, and take transfers that Howard can't do. So you would think in time, if he stays the course and he could build that program into a decent program.
Kara Wright was named the new associate AD at Alabama A&M, and I can't say that I know who Kara Wright is. However, I do know that the hire is significant in that, and I haven't necessarily studied the landscape of women in these type of positions. I mean, granted, she's SWA as well as associate commissioner. I mean, associate AD. But I say kudos to her still because, again, it's still a male-dominated profession, and it's just simply a matter of time before we see more people, not just women, but black women, to take roles. Whether it be the first or second person in charge. So congratulations, Dr. Wright, on your new position as Associate AD at Alabama A&M. And then, of course, the one thing that I think we need to talk about, and this just kind of piggybacks on from last week, Alcorn State released its football schedule for 2017, and they've got an 11-game schedule, and it's not a bad schedule. But I think the one thing that stands out in that schedule is that Texas Southern, as we discussed previously, is listed as a non-conference game.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. You know how I feel about that.
It's not a whole lot you can say about that, huh?
No, I just say SMH on Facebook. SMH. I'm just shaking my head. I don't know.
It's not really
I'm usually not speechless, but it's things I don't quite understand.
It's not a whole lot that you can say about that, but I mean, but still, you would think that, I don't know. I don't know what these ADs are thinking, man. All I will say is this: if you're going to, why go to a 7-game scheduling format when you could have gone to an 8-game scheduling format and you could have avoided all of this?
Right.
That's what this wouldn't be an issue. If we
have to thank the leadership of Dewar Sharp for this. He's the brain trust behind this move. And the presidents of the universities are probably not doing a very good job of holding him accountable. So he's kind of doing his thing, and I don't know what he's thinking, but it doesn't make much sense.
It's easy to say they're not holding him accountable, but based upon some of my and we might as well go ahead and make it clear too, just because I know if I don't bring this up, folks are going to remind me of it. Yes, I am aware. Grambling and Jackson State have also scheduled a game for next year, which will not count in the conference standings. And so, yes, I am aware of that.
And more schools are going to do it.
Yeah,
they're all going to do it. They're all going to do it.
Pandora's box is open. And
it's easy. It's easy. Come on now. That's what we strive to do things easy. We want the easy route. So the easy way to do things. So
I know. You know what? Enough of that.
So I look at Alcorn's schedule real quick, and they can start the season first game against Southern at Lorman, so they win that one, and they lose to Texas Southern, and at Texas Southern, and they're 1-0 in the SWAC.
Well, look, they got FIU, and they've got Nickel State. I mean, those are, and FIU was FBS opponent. And
FIU got a new head coach down there. Who's the new head coach? Just wasn't it one of the big time names? His name?
You're not talking about Lane. I'm thinking about Florida Lane. Lane Kiffin with the FAU.
Yeah, Florida Atlantic.
FAU, not FIU. Right.
Yeah.
Right, but you got Nickel State, which is an FCS opponent from the Southland. So it's a
McNeese State.
Oh, I'm sorry, McNeese State, not Nichols. Yeah. McNeese State, yeah. So, I mean, same conference, but, still. So, I mean, there's something there. But, like I said, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time on that because I do want to dig a little deeper. Let's go back to the Celebration Bowl here because I think...
let's look at the game. Let's look at the game and see...
I agree.
Yeah. Let's look at some of the matches that's going to be key
right.
To a victory for either the Eagles or the Tigers.
A lot has been said about Malcolm Bell. I mean, we know what he brings to the table, but there are a number of other individuals, offensively and defensively, that are going to be legitimate threats or players for the game on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at, and I think people may not be aware of this, with the talk being Malcolm Bell. There's a lot to be said for North Carolina Central's defense and some key players. The first name that comes to mind is Mike Jones, who is steady, who is a decent defensive back, actually more than decent. But I think
shut down corner, shut down
right. But I think the thing to look at him for will be on special teams and punt returns.
Yeah.
And
22 yards per punt return, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You don't see that often. Usually a good punt return is 10, 12, 13 yards. He's 22. So that could play a big role in the game. If he could take one back, he's got 2 touchdowns on the season with a long of 90. So he's definitely got some big play skills in him, and that could easily turn a game real quick. A big special teams play.
Yeah, and then you got players, the linebacker Reggie Hunter, who is, he's big time. And you would think, he actually leads the team in interceptions. He's got 4 interceptions on the year.
And that's pretty high for a linebacker. You don't see linebackers with that many INTs. So obviously he knows how to read the quarterback's eyes, drop into coverage and make plays and analyze quarterbacks and what they're doing. So that's a skill, that's a talent he has, and obviously he's done well with it.
And then we talked about this earlier, and there's a particular player that you gave a nickname to.
Only
FHA.
I couldn't pronounce his last name. I call him FHA, but then you told me I'm going to call him Federal Housing Authority, and you know his name. You can say it, Ken, because I have trouble saying it. But the big defensive end for NCCU, both of them, they got 2 big defensive ends, and both of them. Antonio Brown being the other one, 14 and a half sacks between the two of them. 24 tackles for loss. So they are playmakers. They can be difference makers in this game.
Right.
They're fast. They're big. They're strong. They, I'm sure, want to contain Kincaid, keep him in the pocket, because that's where you can most contain him. Because if he rolls out and he gets free and he can make plays on the move. And scrambling, that's even more difficult for a defense to contain. So they want to keep him in the pocket, I'm sure, and collapse that pocket as much as they can.
Is it really difficult to say Freddie Henry Ajuda?
All right, Ajuda. Okay, I got it now. See, I got it now.
That's not that difficult.
I just call it Federal Housing Authority, FHA.
Okay, but
FHA is Federal Housing Administration, isn't it? Isn't it you get an FHA loan for your house? What is that?
Dude,
Federal
I don't
Housing
know.
Authority?
Administration? I don't know.
I think it's administration.
I don't know.
Oh, you got a house, you're a homeowner, you got an FHA loan probably.
I do, but okay. Whatever, man. Okay. But look, so here's the question. We've kind of gone down a short list of key players with North Carolina Central, and that put some things in perspective. What is up with that, man? We're having problems with audio problems, so we'll just go ahead and kill that. Sorry about that. So we've gone over all of that, but there's the question is are these players? You look at Reggie Hunter, Malcolm Bell, FHA. Are these players enough to overcome the talent with Grambling? And we're talking offensive, because, you look at NCCU offensively. If you, and I say this respectfully, you stop Malcolm Bell, you stop the offense. That is the offense.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But he's a big person to stop. He's a big, tough quarterback. He wants to move the ball, and he can move it through the air. But I think he also likes to pound you on the ground. I look at him kind of like a Dak Prescott when he was at Mississippi State, or a player of the Team Tebow. He can throw well, but he also he's got a big body, strong. He wants to get that spread and kind of hit between the tackles and move get 3 and 4, 5 yards on first down, so they can have short yardage on third down and just keep move the ball. I look at them a little bit like Alcorn's offense. They can throw the ball, but they want to play ball control and keep that Grambling offense off the field. If they can do that, and the defense can play as they've played most of the season, and pressure the quarterback and get some turnovers, it could be a long day for Grambling. Yeah. It could be a long day, but there's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, and you look at Malcolm Bell. 545 yards net rushing. And second to Ramon Simpson, but again,
two things. I'll say this. Two things that kind of, and I'm gonna get this in real quick. Bell's not super efficient.
Right.
Touchdown to interception.
Right.
16 and 12.
16 and 12.
He is
Absolutely.
prone to making some turnovers. And another thing that concerns me is North Carolina Central gets penalized a lot.
Yeah.
They make a lot of penalties, and those things can come up at the wrong time and kind of kick you in the butt if you don't watch it.
Yeah, as it relates to penalties, I mean, North Carolina Central was the most penalized team in the MEAC this year. The most penalized.
Yeah, that's never a good statistic.
89 penalties for 1,006 yards.
Yeah,
1,006 yards.
That's
Averaging
100 yards a game.
averaging 91.5 yards a game. I mean, that's staggering.
9 first downs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's more than some rushers.
Those are drive killers,
Yeah, exactly.
Those things that hurt offensive productivity. So they're going to have to play smart. They have to play discipline, and do all those good things the coaches tell them to do. And maybe they'll have a little better luck coming up Saturday.
So we're winding down. We got a few minutes left. So looking at this, and granted, and for you Grambling folks, we purposely wanted to give a little bit more time to Central to talk about Central's football team. But now when you look at that again, you look at who their key players are, and you compare that to Grambling's players: Devontae Kincaid, Martez Carter, Justin Kelly, Chad Williams. I mean, that's on the offensive side of the ball. And
yeah.
I mean, I think it was Kendrick Marshall who asked the question. He did a quick piece in which the beat writer at the at the Herald Sun in Durham, and it was Jonas Pope IV, who basically stated that Kendrick asked him what matchups were you looking for on Saturday, and he was saying that my cornerback Mike Jones versus Chad Williams, and there's some intrigue there, and I've seen I've seen Mike Jones. Mike Jones is explosive, like I said, but a lot of that has been done through punt returns.
Right.
And and he may very well be a shutdown corner. But okay, so if he puts Chad Williams in check, do they have enough to put Verlin Hunter in check? Do they have enough to put Martez Carter in check? I mean, they got some other receivers there that I guess my point is
why Grambling scores so many points. They have a very high-powered offense. They have a dynamic quarterback. They have at least 2 dynamic wide receivers. They have at least 2 dynamic running backs. They have a solid big offensive line. They're loaded. They're loaded. That offense is the reason why it's scoring 40+ points a game. It's not by tricks and magic and happenstance. They have a lot of talent on offense, and it's gonna be up to the Eagles to somehow get in front of them, stop them, pressure them, for sure eliminate big players. And if Grambling's going to score, make them have 10, 12 play drives to get touchdowns, because the more players, the more chance for turnovers, and that's going to be what they're going to have to hang their hat on.
Right.
And then on the offensive side, try to control the ball, control the line of scrimmage, have their own long drives and to control the ball. But that's not going to be easy because Grambling's loaded on defense too.
Right.
Grambling has some stalwarts on the defensive side of the ball that can wreak havoc on the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, you Guy Stallworth, you Dearius Christmas, Arquez Cooper,
Samuel Reese,
Derek Dixon. I mean, Jamil Jackson. I mean, the list goes on, and I guess it really doesn't come as a surprise. Now, again, I'm guessing the Vegas odds makers probably hadn't seen Grambling or Central play at all this season. I could be wrong about that. I guess they could very well be just looking at the stats and say, you know what, let's just go ahead and set the spread at 15.
Right.
But
I think it's
for those of us,
there's a lot of reason behind it.
Right, but for those of us, when you really look at the players involved here, I mean, how can you say Grambling shouldn't at least be favored, I should say, going into this game. So with that said, and we got a few minutes left, it's time for me to put you on the spot. Predictions. Who's going to win the Celebration Bowl?
What game are you talking about?
The Celebration Bowl. The Celebration Bowl.
Well,
who's going to win that?
I must start by saying this. I hope it's a very good game. The last thing I want is a blowout on national TV, a one-sided game by either team. Although I'm sure alumni fans would love it for their team to blow the other one out. I don't think it'll be that way.
You don't think? You don't think it'll be what way?
Huh? I don't think it'll be a blowout on either side. But I think if the game is a little lopsided, it'll be lopsided on the side of Grambling, just because of their offense.
What's lopsided? Give me a score.
2-3 touchdowns if it gets that high.
Wow.
But I'm thinking. No, that's not my prediction.
So you're saying they're going to cover the spread?
I said if it gets that way. I don't think it's going to be 15 points. I think it's. I'm looking at a game 31-24 Grambling.
31-24 Grambling.
You know, something in that neighborhood. 30-23, 31-24, 29-21. It's going to be a competitive game. I really think it will be. And it would not surprise me if it would shock me, but not necessarily surprise me if the Eagles won. If that makes any sense.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. The way I see it is this: the Angry Birds are angry. They have reason to be upset. Let me say this. I had an interesting conversation with a Mack guy. I'm not going to call his name, but he told me that he has witnessed this firsthand. He has witnessed this firsthand for the entire year, and he's actually heard how Coach Mack and some of his players were just a tad bit peed off, if you will, about constantly being overlooked, and how Broadway and A&T and all of these other schools were constantly being talked about. We heard Coach Mack talk about how, despite how they finished last year, how they didn't get any games on TV this year. I honestly believe it, and I'm gonna predict this, and we've seen this a couple of times this year with Grambling teams. I wouldn't be surprised at all, and I'm going to predict North Carolina Central is going to probably come out and punch Grambling in the mouth.
I agree. I think that's very possible.
I think they could come out and punch Grambling in the mouth to the point to where Grambling could very well find themselves down 10, 14 points before they decide to play. With that said, I think Grambling covers the spread.
Ooh.
I think Grambling covers the spread. I do. I'm looking at this from the eye test, and granted, I have not seen Central play as much as I've seen Grambling play, but I've seen enough of them to say this. And I forgot who it was. Was it Bill Parcells who said that your record and the numbers don't lie, that you are who you are? North Carolina Central is good. Grambling is better. And I think you got to look at the talent. I think you got to look at the individual players. It's a no-brainer almost. Now, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But I think Grambling covers the spread, and I'd go so far as to say that it could be a blowout, and a blowout meaning three touchdowns or more. I think it.
All right. Just be ready next week when all those angry birds come your way. Hit you up on Twitter and Facebook and get on your HBCUsports.com.
Look,
it might shut your server down.
I get it. And
they're gonna be mad. They're gonna come back.
You know what? Well, look, but I say this honestly. I hope it isn't that way. I don't want this game to be a blowout. I want it to be competitive from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. I think Grambling will win it. I don't necessarily want Grambling to win by 3 or 4 touchdowns, but I think that could happen. I really do. So, anyway.
Well, we'll see.
We will see. That is correct.
We'll know Saturday afternoon about 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will. Yes, we will. So okay. So we both agree. We think Grambling's going to win. Surprise, you homers. Anyway, we want to thank all of you for taking a moment to listen to us do this. Please, if you get a chance, go to HBCU Sports HBCUsports.com/podcast. Make a donation to the podcast. We would really appreciate your support. Make sure you go to Spreaker.com and type in HBCU Sports. Go to the official Spreaker page and follow us. And that will automatically alert you of new episodes whenever they're uploaded to the platform. So again, we will be back next week to talk about the Celebration Bowl. I'm Ken Rashad. He's Jeff Duplessis. Brother, thank you so much. We are out. We'll see you next time.
All righty now.